empty nest, too personal best. Let's fly, Mom, fly.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fly Mum Fly podcast. Our guest today is Candice Davis, who will share her unique journey through the empty nest phase. The biggest challenge for Candice has been the physical distance that now separates her from her daughters. Despite staying connected through daily conversations, Candice longs to be more present for important moments in their lives. Towards the end of our podcast chat, Candice will invite empty nesters to share their wisdom and stories in their own book, offering a free resource called Jumpstart Your Book to help get them started. Join us for an inspiring conversation about the empty nest journey and the power of storytelling. Candice, it's so lovely to meet you.
Thank you for having me, Bobby. I really appreciate it.
Oh, look, you're so welcome. I love you already. Just for our listeners, and because people will so relate. Candice came to jump onto the recording and her computer decided that it would start updating.
Yep.
And that would probably be one of my worst nightmares. And as you said, Candice, because this is the first time we've met, so you don't know who you're going to get on the other end.
Yep.
That would have me, and sorry if this is not an American saying, that would have me shitting bricks. And I would probably be sweating and turn up to the podcast all frazzled. So I'm so glad, that's a real icebreaker, I think, for us, because as I mentioned to you pre-pressing record, my husband calls me Lucille Ball or Lucy Ricardo when all this strange stuff happens. So I want to thank you for persevering through that intense moment. And I think that you're going to have a lot to offer us today. And I can't wait to hear your story. So if we can go back to the beginning of your empty nest journey, and if you can share the story about your girls leaving the nest.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I homeschooled my girls for most of their lives until they reached the upper school level. So they went to school for 9th grade on. But before that, we were home all day together every day. And it was really lovely. Like, it was wonderful. This is pre-pandemic, before people had that crazy homeschooling experience. Ours was not like that. Super relaxed, way less work than putting your kids in school. And it just gave us so much time together. So that was wonderful. We built all these little, secret stories between us, inside jokes, things like that, that just made us not friends, because we are still mother and daughter, but we had a friendship to our relationship. And then when my first daughter, who's 7.5 years older than her sister, went to college, she moved clear across the country. So we were living on the West Coast of the United States at the time, and she moved to the East Coast. And I was it was painful. I mean, it's just 3,000 miles away from me at the time. She was a little young for her to be going away for college, a little bit early. And I was scared. I was just really scared because we had been together all the time. So fortunately, my husband got a job in the same city where she was in school, and we moved and we followed right behind her. So that was great. So we were in the same city again. But then when my younger daughter reached the age to go to university, she moved the other way. So she left the East Coast and went to the West Coast.
Oh my God.
And so it was so difficult. And now they're older. They're both done with college. One is living in about 6-hour drive from me, 6 or 7 hours. The other one's living in Canada, on the West Coast of Canada. I'm on the East Coast of the US. So it's so hard to have them that far. We talk every day, pretty much, which is great, but also a little crazy making, right? Because they don't always call when it's convenient for me. I work from home. So they feel like they can call anytime, which they really can, if they really need something. But it is difficult to have that physical distance when they either have a problem or when they have something really great going on and I can't be there.
You know what I need to be doing at the moment? Because I'm getting teary and I feel like I need to fly to wherever you are, and we need to have 5 o'clock wine this afternoon, because my story is your story. So my girls are both in Sydney and I'm in Cincinnati. And just the bond that you were telling me about before when you homeschooled. I was a single mum to them for 5 years before I met Frank. We've been together 10 years, but I'm really resonating with what you're saying and that close bond. And I get the fact that, we do Facebook Messenger. For those that will be watching this, I've got one of these Facebook portals, which is so good because I can carry it around the house with me. I do laugh when you say that you work from home and they call at inconvenient times because, sorry, Lucy and Emily, if you're calling me, but there are times when I'm like knee deep in something, or I haven't even had my morning coffee and they're 14 hours apart. So it's evening for them and they're just ready for a chat. And I'm waking up with sleep in my eyes and messy hair. But it's like I press that button, hi, because I can't. I keep reminding myself, and I don't know if you've come across a lot of empty nest mums who say the same thing, but I wish my children would contact me more. And I'm really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
aware that I am blessed that they call me. So I don't want to ever give the impression. I'll
Yeah.
always answer. If I really can't talk, I'll let them know. But wow, yeah, I think one day I'm going to meet you for a 5 o'clock wine, Candace, and
I'm
we can
here for it.
just,
I'm here for it. And I agree with you. You don't want them to feel like they're unwelcome to call or interrupting you. I will never forget, I saw one of my favorite authors speaking, Toni Morrison, great American novelist, and she said children need to feel like you're happy to see them, right? So they
yes,
want your face to light up when they walk into a room. They need to
yes,
feel like walking in the room is the best thing ever. And even though our children are adults, they still need to feel that. And it is that. Like, it's not fake, it's genuine. We're super excited when they call or FaceTime us, or what if it's the Facebook portal, whatever it is. But even if we're tired, even if we're not having the best moment at the time, we still give that to them because we want them to know that they're always just like welcome to be a part of our
that's
world.
so true. How did your girls go emotionally when they left home? Did they have any struggles? I've noticed some in my youngest. Tell me
Yeah.
about their emotional state and their challenges when they left.
They really did. So my older daughter is 32 now, but when she went to college, she did not call home hardly at all, right? So and when I would come to visit or she would come home to visit, her big struggle was she really wanted to be an independent grown up, right? And so she would come home and you are an adult, but it's still my house. And so I still have sort of, boundaries and
Yeah,
guidelines. So her big struggle was like getting away from being a teenager and going into adulthood, even to the point where her junior year, she was making choices that I didn't agree with, right? I just
yeah,
thought these are not smart choices. And she said, well, this is what I want to do. I said, well, then you can pay your own bills, right? Because we were helping her pay her rent at the time. And she said, fine. And she got a job and she worked full time while going to school full time.
yeah,
And it was great for her, right? But her
yeah.
struggle was getting to that independence. My younger daughter, her struggle was really more that she's so much like me. We're introverted, we're INTJ people. And so building those relationships in a whole new city where there weren't many people. She's a ballet dancer, and so she was in a ballet training program, and
Wow.
so getting her BFA, and so those kids came from all over the country and even from other countries, and she didn't feel like she had a lot in common with a lot of them. So really just trying to navigate those relationships, it worked out fine, right? It worked. She had roommate issues and things like that. Um, the one thing that really I could not take is when they would call me and I would answer the phone and someone would be crying on the other end. That for me
Yeah,
is that's
yeah,
just I can't handle that. Like,
yeah, yeah. I've had
yeah.
that too. That is particularly hard, I think. How did you go with letting them, I guess, transition into adulthood? They were so far away. I
Yeah.
think I would really freak out a little bit about that. My eldest daughter is 25 and she stayed in Sydney when we moved over here because she had university to go to. She's nearly finished her psych degree.
Good for her.
And my youngest one came over here with us. And then after nearly 4 years, moved back. She became an adult and wanted to pursue a career back home. They both live with my sister over there. The eldest one has like an in laws accommodation out the back. So she has her independence. And my younger one is very happy to have a room in Auntie Rosie's house because they're close and they vibe. I said to the youngest, there's no way I would have allowed you. I mean, allowing them, they're adults. But I said to her, it would freak me out because I'd be so worried if you were just going back without having developed a lot of the
Yeah.
independent life skills yet, if you were just to get a flat somewhere and rent somewhere. So, how was it with your girls going to college? I'm guessing they had accommodation on campus.
They did. They both did. But they only had so my younger daughter, they only allowed freshmen to live on campus. But even
Okay.
after that, she moved into an apartment with, friends, and it was fine. We did focus a lot on developing those life skills while they were at home, and
Right.
we also focused a lot on saying, "Okay, even though you're in a city and we're not there and maybe there's no family there, let's find some people who, in an emergency, you could call." So, this is my friend. We were in a fellowship program together. She lives in your city. Let's meet her so you can call her if you have an emergency. My husband has friends in the other city, meet them. But when my daughter moved to Canada, I don't know anybody in Vancouver,
Yes.
BC. So that
Yes.
was, but she was a little older. She's like 22 or 3 at that time. And so still, that was hard for me, but she managed. I mean, I just had to, and I said to them, "Why do you guys keep moving farther and farther away from me?" And they said, my younger daughter said, "Well, you're the one who raised us to be independent." And I was like, "Ugh."
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
well, that's a really good mom. But it is, no matter what we do to raise them, there is still that concern. We're always going to worry about our kids. My dad passed away last year at 90, and I'm
mm,
52. And up to the very end, he would still treat us as if we were his little girls, and not
yeah,
baby us, but he would always be, "Oh, hi, love. How can I help you?" And even as he was ailing and failing, he would still
yeah,
aim to, step up as that dad figure. So,
yep, yep.
it's real. We're so conditioned in our role that we do have to modify it. We do become remote mums, but we will always still mother. So, tell me about the steps you took to transition successfully from a mum who had so much day to day interaction with her girls to one that is now thriving with a business of your own.
Yeah, so when my first daughter went away, I still had my younger daughter at home, so it didn't feel like a big transition, but when the younger one left, I have to say, we partied for a year. My husband and I we just, like, had a great time for that first
Wow.
year, and honestly, part of that for me was, like, distracting me, like, we went
Yeah.
out a lot more, but it was distracting me from thinking about, "Is
Yes.
she okay?" And when we dropped her off at college, the younger one, there was a parting ceremony where they, kinda said, "Welcome, kids, goodbye, parents," and then they said to the kids, "We don't want you to call your parents for the first couple of weeks because we want you to adjust to school," and I wanted to scream because I was like, "Call your mommy every day." But of course she took their approach, right? So my husband and I really did focus on just really having fun
That's so
that
good.
year. No more driving kids to school, no more going to, dance recitals and stuff like that, just enjoying each other. So that was really great. And then I had to come down to reality a little bit. But building my business really happened for me when the last one went off. And she actually works for me now. So that worked out
I
really
love
well.
that. I love that. So tell me how you started the business. Were you always in this type of industry in relation to literature, book publishing? Tell me about your start.
Yeah, I have loved books since I could like just lift my head up, like my parents were reading to us when we were in the womb, right? So I've just always loved books. But as a kid, I really didn't believe I could be a writer. I didn't know I knew one writer in my childhood who had written a book,
Yeah.
and I just didn't think it was a possibility. And then when I started homeschooling my girls, I would say I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I was living close to LA, in Orange County. I wanted to have something for myself. So I
Mm-hmm.
just started taking writing classes. At that
Yeah.
time, I was studying literary fiction because that's my first love. I ended up doing lots of great workshops. And then I went through a divorce and I needed
Oh,
to make some money.
yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I need to make money, right? Um, and a friend introduced me to a chef who wanted to write a cookbook. She'd been on one of those competition TV shows
Yeah.
and she wanted to make, as much out of that moment as she could. And she said, "Well, I'm a single mom. You're a single mom. I think we could do this together." And she hired me to co write her cookbook. Took us like 3 years to sell it because that was right at the recession.
Oh,
But we
really?
sold it. We sold it to a major publisher. And I thought, maybe this is where my livelihood is going to be. And I did a lot of experimenting. I did a lot of ghostwriting, co-writing, editing, and what I found is that I do love editing, but I also really love coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Women are most of my clients, but some men too. I love coaching like just really smart women to share their experiences in a book.
So, what types of women do you come across that come to you for coaching and want to write a book? Is there a theme? or about these women, or is it just totally random and you get everything across the spectrum?
It's not totally random. So I don't get many fiction writers, even though I love them so much and welcome them with open arms. I don't get as many fiction writers. I mostly get women who they have experience and a story that they want to put together and share their knowledge, experience, and a story in a way that will help other people, right? So
Mhm.
they absolutely want to get something out of it for themselves, even if I have to like coax out of them what it is that they want to get for themselves. Maybe they're speakers and they want to do more speaking. Maybe they want to just, get their message out, but they have something they want to share, either in a
Mhm.
memoir or the type of book that teaches people, personal development or professional development. That's most of my clients. But interestingly, after you and I connected, I went back and thought through my people, and I would say probably 50% of the women that I coach are empty nesters. And it's because they've
Right.
gotten to a point where they have time
Yes.
to write a book.
Yes. What might be the reason or reasons that people don't make a start with this if it's something they have always thought about doing?
It's just fear. It's nothing other than fear. And it's fear of rejection, right? So either I'm going to start doing this and tell people I'm writing a book, and then I'm not going to finish, and people are going to think, wow, what a loser. She said she was going to
Yeah.
do it and she didn't do it. Or you're going to do it and people aren't going to like it. And it's not going to sell and no one's going to want it. Because I used to think it was lack of information, but the information is out there. Like there are a million books written on how to write a book, a million of them, right?
Yeah.
There's no lack of YouTube videos. I post content all the time on every social media channel how to write a book. I have a podcast. The first 10 episodes walk you through the steps of writing a
Mhm.
book. So
Mhm.
the information is out there, but people are afraid that if they take action, it's not going to get the result that they want. And that idea of how bad that's going to feel can really keep people stuck.
I'm guessing from who I am that it would be easier to write nonfiction than fiction.
It just depends on the person. It really
Right.
depends on I met this lovely woman, maybe late last year, late in
Yeah.
2022, and, she's probably 24, 25 years old, and she had written an
Mhm.
incredible sci-fi novel. So, she hired me to coach her through, like, revising it and edit it for her, but fiction came easily to her. So, I think it just depends on the person and your preferences.
Yeah, it really does, because my way of doing it is that it has to spark joy within. There is no way I can put pen to paper, although I'm typing, if I'm not purging it from my heart space. That's the
Yeah.
only place I can do it from. If someone told me to write a manual about something else or a story about an engineer, sorry, I'm just that sounds dreadful, but my husband's an engineer, and I think he's the president of a company, but he's got an engineering degree, and I just think his work is so boring. So,
Oh my gosh.
so sorry, Frank, but I'm using you as an example. But if someone asked me to write a story about an engineer, I wouldn't, because it's not shiny sparkly enough. It's not
Yeah.
igniting my heart space. So I guess that is the key. Do some people come to you and the key to them starting is finding their inner joy?
I think it is. I think most people are under the idea that writing is a painful task. And I
Right.
blame our school system for that, right? Because it's not made to be fun and pleasurable when we're in school. For most of us, it's like
Mm.
this task that's arduous. And so many people have had either teachers or professors or employers tell them they're not good writers, and they internalize that and they
Mhm.
believe that. So, yes, I would love to help people find the joy of it, right? You should be delighted in what you're producing, but that doesn't mean it's not work. It's still work to like get it on the page, but we enjoy other work. There's other work that we do that we enjoy. And most of my clients are entrepreneurs and they are doing work that they really love. And those books align with that. So definitely finding that delight in what you're producing and giving yourself the freedom to create something completely different. Like a client asked me recently, well, I was thinking of doing an essay collection with my poetry. And I'm like, okay, so do it. Like, but she feels like because other people aren't doing it,
Right.
that she can't do it. So just allowing yourself the freedom to do it your way.
Yeah. Yeah. For the first time writer, would you suggest them going down the self publishing, Kindle Direct publishing path, or should they be seeking out a literary agent and looking at publishing houses? What's the difference between someone whose book is better off to be self published that way, or whether someone should really be going through you perhaps to link with a publisher?
So I have clients who do both. So I have
Mhm.
clients who take the traditional publishing route. With traditional publishing, we're only talking about nonfiction for our conversation. With traditional publishing, you're going to have to write a book proposal first. And you're going to have to basically sell that proposal to an agent. And then that agent's going to have to sell it to a publisher. And that process could take a year or two or never happen. So I've had friends who've pitched for, and they're brilliant writers, brilliant, who've pitched for several years and never sold their book.
Right.
So it's not guaranteed that just because you're pitching that you're going to sell it, right? Or that you're
Yeah.
even going to get an agent. My clients who choose to pursue that path anyway generally already have a pretty significant platform. So
Mhm.
they know that they can get a decent, maybe a, six-figure, $120,000 advance.
Mhm.
That sounds glorious, right? But that advance is paid out over 3 years.
Right.
That's not a lot. And your agent takes 15% off the top.
I see.
So, and then you've got to pay taxes on it. So it's not a lot of money left after it's spread out over 3 years. But for some of them, they just want the cachet of saying, this big publisher picked my book. And it's
Mhm.
important to them. It helps their businesses. Most of my clients, probably 75%, take the independent publishing route. They go to a self-publishing services company that helps them produce a beautiful book. They get it up on Amazon. They get it selling on Barnes& and Noble. Some of them will go so far as to really make the effort to get their book into independent bookstores because they
Yes.
believe in supporting them. Um, but those people either don't want to do the work of building a huge platform because it is a lot of work, and that is what traditional publishers are mostly looking for, or they just want their book to come out in this lifetime. They don't want to wait two
Yeah.
or 3 years to
Yeah.
be published, and some people think that, well, if I get a traditional publisher, they'll help me promote my book. They will not. They won't. I don't know how many ways I can say they don't.
Mhm.
Like, you're still responsible for promoting and marketing your book. That is on the author.
Right. I would love to ask you about red flags to look out for when it comes to connecting with a self-publishing services or service or business. I got scammed earlier this
Oh,
year, and
yeah.
I was linked with a company that said they were affiliated with Amazon and
Mhm,
KDP, and they weren't.
mhm.
I found this out after spending 3 months with them and really not getting anywhere with my book. I didn't know that KDP don't even edit books, but this service said that they did everything, and they said they were Amazon KDP. They have the website, all the fonts, same colors. So it was really, really deceptive. And it was only when I went on to a self publishing support group on Facebook and I said, well, this company has had my book and have been editing it for 3 months, and I keep getting it back with mistakes, and they send me back 20 pages a week. And the moderator of that group jumped in and said, it's a scam, they're a scam. And then I, after that, looked on the Better Business Bureau and found out other people had had the same thing. So I would really love, if you can, to share some red flags about what we need to be checking and looking for when we're linking with a service such as this.
Oh, for sure, and let me just say, you are not the first person I've talked to who has had that experience
Yeah.
at all. I mean, I talk, and it's not necessarily even KDP pretending to be KDP affiliated, but there's so much because it's an easy people are easy targets when they're trying to publish a
Yes.
book. It's something you're passionate about. It's something you really want to get out there. It's an easy target. And there are lots of disreputable companies out there taking advantage of that. When you are an independent author, you're not going after traditional deal, you're doing all this yourself. You have two different paths. You
Mm-hmm.
can choose just to go to a self-publishing services company or a hybrid company. I'll just tell you right now, I'm not a fan of hybrid companies. That's just not
Okay.
my, and I have friends that own and run them, and I love you friends, but that's just not my favorite thing. So with the self-publishing services company, everything belongs to you. It's published under your imprint or your company name. You own the ISBN. You get the royalties paid directly to you. You never have to deal with that company again unless you want to. after they've done the work for your book. And the work for your book includes your cover design, your layout design, perhaps helping you get it uploaded to the right places, making sure you have an ebook version, perhaps doing an audiobook version if that's what you want. Straight services. You pay them a fee and that's it. You're done. Their services are probably between $1,200 and $2,000, but that does not include editing.
Okay.
That does not include editing. So
Mm-hmm.
if they have add-on editing services, you can add it, or you just go to an editor on your own. Hybrid companies are trying to sort of bridge the gap between the self-publishing services company, which gives the basic services, and I work with them all the time, and I've had great experiences, which give the basic services, and traditional publishing. What I don't like about hybrids, I don't mind that they're more expensive because they do, if they're a good company, they do give you more services and more attention. What I don't like about it is that they often publish your book under their imprint name.
Right.
They have all your files. You don't have the files. You have to go through them if you want to make a change. When your
Mm-hmm.
royalties are being paid, they don't come to you directly. This is not the case with all, but with many. But
Yes.
they go to them because they're taking a back end piece. Not all hybrid companies do that, but some of them do that, which I just think is ridiculous when I paid you $10,000 up front
Yeah.
to design my book and you're still getting money off the back end. Absolutely
Mm-hmm.
not.
Mm-hmm.
That's a no for me.
Right.
Red flags with either any of them to me is if you don't own your ISBN, you don't want to work with that company. That
Mm-hmm.
ISBN should be yours. You should have the choice to publish it under your own imprint or company name or your name, however you want to publish it. If you want to choose under their company, great. If you don't, that should be your choice. Anybody who cannot show you examples of their work that you can go and look at yourself is a problem. I always say if you don't know someone who worked with them, you probably shouldn't work with them. And I know that that's tough on businesses, but you got to talk to an author
Yeah.
who's used their services and see what their experience was. If you can't communicate with them, meaning they have no way for you to talk to them like when you need to,
Yeah.
that's a red flag. That's a problem for me.
Yeah.
If you look at um, if you look at the examples or the portfolio on their website, and it doesn't look like you want your book to look like, go the other way. That is not the company for you. Or if everything looks the same, that's not the company for you. You don't want your book to look like it's come out of a mold with everyone else's book.
It's funny that
So,
you say that. Just an example of that, this red flag company, they sent me all these examples of book covers, and plus all
mhm,
these add-ons were at exorbitant prices.
mhm,
I'm thinking, what
mhm.
the heck? And then I looked at their range of book covers and I thought, no, this
I
is
don't want that.
no. But then I went on to Amazon just to see, and I typed in self-help, and all the same covers are up there. So they've obviously gone and just taken examples, but it was all the same. And a lot of them, it just makes me laugh. It's like silhouettes of women with butterflies coming out of their head
Oh,
and
stop it.
all that,
Stop it.
all that sort of tragic sort of stuff. Sorry to anyone who has that as their book cover. But from listening to you, you know, life doesn't often give us what we want, but it gives us what we need. And from this disaster, which actually probably was a blessing in disguise,
Yeah.
I then went on to this group. I found out so much information. I purchased Atticus, the
Mhm.
formatting thing. I'd had my manuscript done. I purchased Atticus. And then I learnt how to do my book covers with the templates from KDP and with Canva. And I purchased a batch of ISBNs, and I've gone from there, and I've got my own imprint. I learnt what an imprint was because I never knew what they were talking about, but I feel more in control now. And you're right. When I want to make a change, I just go back in and just tweak something, and then I upload that file, and it could not be easier. Now with Atticus, for anyone who was listening, you can actually type your manuscript and format it, and it has all these templates that you can choose, and you can put your own pictures in. And the great thing is that you can then download it as the correct file for KDP, and it gives you all the different sizes and all that sort of thing. So it's $150 investment. But as I said to my husband, look, I'm going to go ahead and do this. They have a 30-day money back guarantee, and it has been absolutely well worth it. So I think for me as a newbie, it was such a good place to start. And I think you've got to make it easier for yourself. So as you said before, the fear, there's a lot of fear around, I guess, the unfamiliar when it,
Yeah.
and not only that, but also the rejection that you
Yep.
said, and what if I don't get it out there? I read on your website that you have some myths about being an author and getting your book out there. Can you share a couple of those myths about
Oh,
writing?
there's so many. And I think it's so funny because media has given us a lot of these myths too, right? So like you will see like the isolated author sitting in a cabin, they've got a glass of brown liquor or a mug of coffee or something. They're just typing away, right? And they never talk to anyone. And then they rip out the pages from the typewriter and they got this manuscript and it's this genius work and that's it. That is the biggest myth of all. Because if you look at just any of your favorite books, and whether they're traditionally published or independently published, no one writes a book alone. It is a team effort to produce a great book. If a client is working with HarperCollins, for example, they've got me coaching them
Yeah.
through their book. They've got the HarperCollins acquiring editor, they've got the HarperCollins copywriting copy editor, and they've got the HarperCollins proofreader helping them make this a great book. It wasn't necessarily great when they sent it in, right? And if you're working independently, you've got to be the one to put together that team. And you don't have
Yeah.
to have all those layers, but you've got to have someone edit your manuscript. Spell check is not enough, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And talk to people about your book. You do not have to write in isolation. It is a solitary process when you're writing it, but if you have a friend or if you have a colleague or a coach that coaches you for something else, even you can bounce your ideas off that person. No one's
Yeah.
gonna. That's the other thing. Everyone's worried about their book idea being stolen. Friends, you cannot copyright an idea. No one can steal it.
Yeah.
And the book that you produce, if you and I, Bobby, wrote a book on the same topic, they would be nothing alike because our
Exactly.
experiences
Yeah.
are totally different. So you don't have to write in isolation, big myth, and you definitely don't have to worry about people stealing your book idea. Share
Mhm.
your idea with your trusted circle so you can get the feedback you need.
For sure. I just was thinking, and the reason why I pointed at myself and started laughing was when you said the myth is that, you're sitting at a typewriter by the window overlooking the ocean and having a glass of wine. I once dated a guy in my early 20s because he looked like that. I met him, I was traveling in the US and he was still in college, and a friend of mine had to go to an orientation, and I met this dude, and it was like a wet rainy day, and he was wearing one of those cable knit sweaters with the big collar, and he was outside smoking a cigarette, and he, back in the 90s when nobody had an issue,
People
he had
smoke.
like the long curly hair, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to marry you and we're going to live in Ireland and you're going to sit there and write and type your book and we're going to have that existence. So I fall for things like that. But anyway,
We all do. We
we,
absolutely
yes,
all do.
yeah, we dated for a couple of minutes and then that was it. But yes, oh my goodness. Well, look, I just want to actually ask, because I probably should ask this, and it's a question that you probably get all the time. What's your favorite book?
Oh gosh, that is really impossible. That is like impossible to pick one favorite book. But if I had to say, like, okay, this is a book that I'm going to read over and over again, I would read Toni Morrison's Paradise over and over again in terms of like fiction, like literary fiction. But I'm not like a book snob. I read across the board. So, like,
Yeah.
I know this is controversial right now. So just take me for what I am right here. I've read the Harry Potter book series many times over with
Yeah.
my kids, alone, etc. So I love that series. I
Yeah.
also have nonfiction books that I'm completely in love with. There's a memoir called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings that I read early in my like young adult life that left a big impact on me. So I mean, I really feel like books changed my life and
Mhm.
saved my life at different
Mhm.
times. So they different books have a special place in my heart for different reasons.
Yeah. So if you were to give an empty nest mum a bit of advice who is thinking, yeah, I think I really would like to run with the idea of writing a memoir or a self help book or whatever is inside of her that she wishes to share with the world, what bit of advice can you give her?
First and foremost, to trust yourself. Trust that if you're writing a memoir, your story is enough for a memoir. I have yet to meet a person whose story was not enough for a memoir. Never have met one.
Hmm.
And I hear some people give the advice that not everyone should write a memoir. Well, no, but everyone does have a story that's sufficient for a memoir. So trust yourself that you could do that. And if you want to write a book that's like a self-help book and teaching someone to do something, trust yourself with that too. You've
Yeah,
accomplished. You didn't get to empty nest stage in life without accomplishing some things and
yeah,
learning some things along the way. So
yeah.
whatever it is that you want to write about, trust yourself to be able to do it, and then go find the resources you need to make it happen.
I love it. And this conversation has been so insightful. And I personally, because just released the book, can't wait to jump onto your website, jump onto your socials, and really discover what you're able to do for current or new authors. Because I think we, as you said before, everyone has a support network, and I would love the information that you can provide and the obviously services to be something that is on my bookshelf. Pardon the pun.
No pun, no pardon needed.
Thank
Like,
you. Thank you. Well, we'll stick all your links on the podcast episode description, and so people can get in touch with you. Where do you hang out most on social?
I hang out most on Instagram, but I
Okay.
am having fun on Threads right now, I have to
Right.
say.
Yes, it's all
Yeah.
new. Look, I've never really mastered Instagram, but someone
Oh, I
who
haven't mastered anything, Bobby.
no good. Okay, because I said to someone the other day, she's become a friend through Facebook, but she lives in the UK. And she said, "Look, I'll give you a lesson on Instagram." And that made me feel she's about my age, but it just made me feel so behind. And I've joined Threads, but I still don't really know what I'm supposed to do with it. So anyway, well, Candace, all the very best. I will keep in touch with you because I do think there's probably more that we can speak about in the future. And I'd love to have you back on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Bobby. This was a pleasure.
Oh, I'm so glad. And it's lovely to meet you. And I'm glad your computer is now updated.
Thank you.
All right. And for all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on Fly Mum Fly. And we'll connect again the next time.
From empty nest to personal best, let's fly, mom fly. empty nest, too personal best. Let's fly, Mom, fly.